Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to the Tisch WNET studio here in the heart of Lincoln Center. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome Peter Wilderotter, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. Welcome.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
By the way, you know public broadcasting well, don't you?
Yeah, I worked for WNYC for 6 years in the early part of this century.
Helping to raise money.
Helping to raise money.
We still do that.
We still
We never stop doing that.
You've got probably a couple of tote bags in your closet.
Yeah, fighting the good cause.
Yeah.
Speaking of good causes, this foundation, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, extraordinary. Talk about Christopher and Dana Reeve first, who they were, why they matter so much, and the work of this foundation, why it's so important.
Yeah, I think we tell the story of spinal cord work the way we tell the story of history, BC and AD, before Christopher and after Dana. And before Chris, there really wasn't that much hope. You were, if your family, if you yourself had a spinal cord injury, you were met by a doctor in a hospital and essentially said, here's your chair, here's your medications, here's what you can get used to and what the state will provide. And oh, by the way, in sort of a cruel afterthought, that which you get back in the first couple of weeks after the injury is what you can expect for the rest of your life. Chris changed that dogma completely. He actually had the audacity to talk about a cure and fought the good fight to raise awareness, to raise money, to get scientists to collaborate, to get the community to participate in that.
Excuse me, take a step back. Chris's accident was?
In 1995.
And put in context, I'm sorry for interrupting, Peter, but put in context for those who may not remember what and who Christopher was at the time in the American pop culture scene and why he was such an important figure.
Well, Chris was an extraordinarily well-known actor, and he was Superman. And
he literally played Superman.
He literally played Superman, and so it became the metaphor. You know, Superman got injured, and he used that celebrity. He actually used that celebrity prior to his injury. He founded an organization called the Creative Coalition because he believed that actors not only should lend their name to organizations, but they should be informed and educated. I actually met him in a previous organization because he was an advocate. The organization was Planned Parenthood. He was a big believer in a woman's right to choose and international family planning. And so he gave his celebrity, and he changed the game. He changed the way people think about spinal cord injury, certainly the support that the foundation that bears his name garnered. And while he was out talking about a cure, his wife really talked about a care and the fact that at the time of the injury, there was no place for people to turn to get the information that they needed, how to make their homes accessible, how to navigate this new life and what was coming down the road. And so she created our Paralysis Resource Center, which has helped over 70,000 people in those early stages, as well as any questions that they might have about the injury, information that they might need, a peer-to-peer network. They were extraordinary people.
So Christopher winds up dying what year?
He died in 2004.
And just a couple of years later,
literally 18 months later.
18 months later, Dana dies of lung cancer.
She dies of lung cancer.
Two people, vital, young, strong. This happens to them. They have young children. Mm-hmm. Who were the young children and what ages?
At the time of, I think, Matthew, I think, was 22 or 23. Alexandra was 21. And Will was 14 at the time of their passing. And in fact, Dana died in March of 2006. We had a board meeting the next day, and we nominated Matthew and Alexandra to our board. And they have been extraordinary board members and carry the vision of their folks on and to this day. And Will, when he graduated from college and started his career in broadcasting, joined our board and has been an extraordinary advocate to help us spread the word.
Put a spinal cord injury into its proper context for us, Peter, if you could. How many people in this country are dealing with spinal cord injuries?
1,275,000. That was done through a study that we did. There are 5.5 million that have some form of paralysis due to something that occurred in the central nervous system. Our resource center helps all living with paralysis. Our research is really focused on trying to find cures for spinal cord injury. And we've spent over $120 million in advancing therapies that we believe will get to the clinic very, very soon.
You know, a few months back, an extraordinary young man, former standout for the Rutgers University football team you know well.
Eric LeGrand.
So Eric LeGrand, a hero for me and for so many others. We actually wound up doing a full half hour with Eric. By the way, go on our website. Our team is about to put it up on the screen right now. steveadubato.org. All of our programs, our team is so great. That's what they do. They let folks know where you can find our programs. Check out Eric LeGrand. Eric was injured in the year 2010 at a Rutgers football game against Army. Eric tells his own story. He did the interview in his wheelchair, and he has to be one of the most positive, extraordinary role models. But he's made progress, and he continues to make progress, and he's connected to your organization, and he's very optimistic. Why?
He's optimistic because we know so much more now. In the early days, we believed there was no science, there was no research. So because of the pioneers and the organization, the American Paralysis Association that existed before Chris was injured, they funded a lot of the basic science that took us to where we are now. And Eric is optimistic because he's part of our Neuro Recovery Network, which is treadmill.
Neuro Recovery Network.
Right, and we have a site right at the Kessler Foundation in West Orange where Chris was treated, and Eric goes there, and it's treadmill training where they suspend Eric, and they really rework his legs because the spinal cord has a memory, and it re-engages and reignites that which is going on. So he's very, very optimistic.
And by the way, go back to the Kessler Foundation because they're not only a supporter of some of the public programming, public television programming we do, but we also moderate a whole range of conferences on work that Kessler is doing. But I have some of the work they're doing is groundbreaking, and I'm struck by the progress, the science there, the research there, which has me seeing things I never thought were possible. People are able to walk that we never thought were able to.
That's correct. Yeah, a lot of that is due to technology. You know, and they were a funder of one of the early patients that we had in what is becoming our big idea, where one implants a off-the-shelf Medtronic device used for pain. Medtronic, the company, and this device goes above the dura of the spine where the injury was and excites those neurons that have been silent for a long time and reignites and creates those pathways. And we're seeing people get bowel bladder function back, temperature control, extraordinary things that heretofore would never be anticipated. So Eric is very optimistic and has every right to be optimistic. He has a smile that would fill this room, and that optimism. And he reminds us very much of Chris, as his mom, who's a member of our team now,
Eric's mom.
Reminds us of Dana.
Let me ask you this, in a couple minutes we have left. Some of the misconceptions that many of us have about those who are dealing with spinal cord injuries, who are dealing with paralysis. A, that we think that there's very limited progress. And again, every case is different. Every individual has a different case. But that we're so pessimistic, some of us, and I mean metaphorically, I mean a lot of folks out there. That's one. But what else do we need to know about spinal cord injury and its future?
I think we need to know that disabled doesn't mean unabled, and so that we have a quality of life program. We've given over $20 million in grants to local organizations, teams that want to, so that individuals with disabilities can participate in sports and things along those lines. Wheelchair ballroom dancing, making the Bear Mountain accessible so that those in chairs can get to the summit. Making gardens accessible so that people can fully participate. I think the real misconception is that We don't know, when we see somebody in a wheelchair, we don't know how to interact and connect with that person. We should just go up and talk to them and ask them how they're doing and ask them about their injury, and they will be willing to, and ask them what their dreams and aspirations are, because they have them and they will succeed. Maybe their dreams were somewhat changed when that injury occurred.
As Eric said,
but Eric has a career in broadcasting. Chris acted from the chair. He taught his son how to ride a bike from the chair. And so that is the message that we need to
It's so interesting you say that. Eric LeGrand told us, yeah, he did want to play in the NFL, but since that was not possible, he wanted to be the best broadcaster he could be. And he focused on what, check this out, trust me, it's a powerful interview. He said he wanted to focus on what he could do, not on what he was not able to do, and be the best at what he could do. Real quick, if I could get you to talk about this, the emotional and psychological piece for those who are dealing with spinal cord injuries, how do you help folks deal with that side of the equation?
We have people like Eric LeGrand, we have people like Dana Reeve, and we've created a peer-to-peer network that aligns someone who has had a similar injury. That's how we got to Eric. That's what Chris would do. He would read about somebody, he would hear about somebody, he would pick the phone up and call them, and that's a life-changing call to get a call from Christopher Reeve. And the foundation continues to do that.
How do you raise your money?
Day in and day out. We raise our money through events. We raise our money through Team LeGrand. We raise our money through direct response. People can go to our website and give a gift online, ChristopherReeve.org. And we need it, and we'll put it to great use. As
a student of leadership, as folks know, I often ask the #1 leadership lesson great leaders like yourself have learned. What's the #1 leadership lesson you've learned so far? I think the leadership lesson that I've learned came from my background. There were 3 things that my parents told me. I either had to be a priest, a lawyer, and go to St. Benedict's. So I went to St. Benedict's because I wasn't smart enough or holy enough to do the first 2. St. Benedict's Prep in Newark, where my son teaches religion and theology.
I'm on the board, and and your dad was on the board with us.
That's right.
And the leadership lesson of St. Benedict's is its motto: whatever hurts my brother hurts me, and we're in this all together, and that's what we have to deliver.
Well, that's what the Benedictines taught, and Father Edwin Lays, one of our leaders and heroes.
That's a hero.
Yeah. Peter, thank you for joining us, the President and CEO of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, extraordinary organization. And check out Eric LeGrand. Good stuff. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Summit Medical Group, St. Peter's University, Suez, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, and by the Give Something Back Foundation. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce, the statewide voice of business in New Jersey. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.